My name is Henry Baker. I've been DJing for 10 years, and I've hosted a lot of weddings. The video you're about to see is not a glitzy Hollywood production, but is formatted and presented in a classroom style. As all showcase videos, it's presented and packed with a lot of information. The purpose of the video is to provide you the training so that you can assist in the running of the wedding ceremony, as well as run a great wedding reception party. As a video producer, I've had a chance to be at a lot of weddings. A lot of those DJs did great jobs, but there were a number of DJs that I saw where they had no knowledge of wedding reception protocol or procedures. This video contains a lot of information, and it will be delivered in a classroom style. You received a set of notes. Refer to those notes for a complete breakout of the information and where it's located. The video will also cover opportunities in the wedding business, marketing and tips on getting the business, selling yourself, handling the call, the wedding ceremony, and the running of the wedding reception. That's from the announcement of the wedding party into the hall through to the last dance. Every weekend, there are hundreds of weddings in any given area. The high percentage of second marriages is creating an even greater demand for DJ services. There is no other service that you will provide which will pay you as well as that of being a wedding DJ. Wedding services are priced based on a 4-hour program. Rates range from an average of from $350 to $500. Extra hours are priced from $50 to $100 for that extra hour. In some sections of the country, like New York, we're hearing figures of $800. And this usually includes a second DJ, dancers, or possibly a light show. It's important to know what's being charged in your area. If your price is too low, you won't appear to be professional. This means you have to call around and survey your competition. You've got to know what your competition is charging. There are many ways to advertise, such as the yellow pages, newspapers, and trade magazines. And what I found works best are the trade magazines, such as New England Bride, Wedding Day magazine. These are the magazines which are specifically targeted at the wedding market, and they can be found in the magazine section of a well-stocked bookstore. The yellow pages is also a good vehicle for advertising. And advertising doesn't stop with the magazine ads or the yellow pages. There are business cards, letterheads, pre-printed envelopes, contract forms, wedding reception questionnaire forms, and wedding protocol sheets. Image is everything, and if you want to make a strong impression on your customer, you have to have custom printed forms. With this video, you will have received customized letterheads, contract forms, wedding reception questionnaire forms, and wedding protocol sheets. And if you don't have these forms and would like to get a copy of them, call us and we will be happy to ship them to you. Hello, this is Party Time DJ Productions and the personal residence of Henry Baker. Your call is important. Please leave a message when you hear the tone. For immediate service, I can be reached on my pager at 617-560-4867. Answering machines may be your customer's first contact with you. Use a personalized message that says you're in business. Pagers are a fast and inexpensive way to keep in touch with your customers. But more importantly than that, the pager tells your customer that you're serious and that you're in business. Referrals can be your best source of business. Your best referrals will come from other successful DJs. These people are usually booked and can't handle all of the business that they're receiving. Referrals can also come from other people in the wedding business, such as function halls, florists, and photographers. Make a point of talking with these people. Give them your business card, and don't be afraid to tell them that you're willing to pay a referral fee. Up to 20% would be reasonable. You have to know the name of the person that you're talking to. Use their name during the conversation. You also have to get their telephone number. If the call gets interrupted and you've lost the call, you have to be able to get right back to them. Before you can start the process of selling to the person, You have to get information. Only after you've gotten this information will you be able to do a good job of selling yourself. By asking questions, you show you're interested in the customer, and your customer will appreciate this. The first two questions your customer will ask are, how much do you charge, and how many weddings have you done? Your response to these two questions should be to ask, when are you getting married? Where are you getting married? Where will the reception be? It's good to know if the reception is going to be at the Ritz-Carlton or an American Legion post. Once you're on the phone with the bride, you have to establish her confidence in you. You have to satisfy her that you're the right person for the job. The bride's overall concern is to make sure that her guests are entertained.
Hi, my name is Pam Avedizian, and I'm going to need a DJ for my wedding reception. I'd first like to know how many weddings you've done and how much you're going to be charging.
Okay. Pam, how do you spell your last name?
Avedizian.
And could I also have your telephone number, please?
364-1004.
Pam, when will you be getting married? Okay, March 24th, and that's scheduled for when? Okay.
I'd like to keep the program fairly simple and pretty much let you take over and do things the way you like to do them. I just want to know that my guests are going to have a really good time.
What I would propose, Pam, is to announce the wedding party right into the hall and bring you right into the first dance. Halfway through the first dance, we're going to bring out the wedding party and have them join you. And then right after that dance, we're going to have the blessing, the toast, and go right into the meal, and then we'll have the ceremonial dances later. How does that sound?
Oh, that sounds good.
What I'm going to recommend is that approximately into the second or third course of the meal, we bring out your parents for the parents' dances, and right behind that, we're going to bring out the wedding party onto the dance floor. Halfway through that, we're then going to invite all of you guests onto the dance floor as well to join you. The floor's loaded, they're dancing to a nice slow dance, we've had no problem bringing them out, and then right behind that dance, we're going to bring up the tempo of the music, get into something a lot more faster, and now the party is rolling. What do you think?
I like that. Very good.
After reviewing the schedule of events for the wedding reception party, you should talk to the bride about her plans for the wedding. Show her that you are interested in her and her wedding day. Ask the bride about the reception line. Where will it be held? If the bride indicates the reception line will be held at the church, then reassure her that over 50% of the weddings have the receiving lines at the church. A reception line at the church will help to minimize delays in the program. If there are brothers and one of them is the best man, mention to the bride that having two brothers or brothers as co-best men is becoming very popular, and that works well. Will the maid of honor be delivering a toast? This is becoming much more common. If there are no fathers dance with the bride, possibly because the father is deceased, check to see if there are other older men in the family. Having the bride dance with the grandfather, uncles, or older brothers makes for a great scene. The key here is that we want to personalize our discussion. We want to show an interest in our customer, and we want to demonstrate our experience. After discussing the reception party and plans for the wedding day, quote the bride your fee for services and what you would require for a deposit. Now, be quiet and let her respond. Let her do the talking. If she balks at a commitment, don't lower your price right away. Very few customers commit on the first call, so don't think you have to get a commitment on the first call. To give yourself an excuse for a follow-up call, tell the bride you would like to send her a wedding questionnaire form and a wedding protocol form. Get her permission to mail these forms to her. These are just some of the tips you will find in our notes. If you need a copy of these notes, don't hesitate to call and we'll send them right out to you. The follow-up call might go like this. Hello, Sue. This is Henry Baker from Party Time DJ Productions. I'm just calling to see if you received the material that I had sent you. Do you have any questions regarding that material? When do you think you'll be making a decision? May I ask you what is stopping you from making a commitment at this time? Wait. After you ask these questions, give her a chance to respond, to give you an answer. Get her response. Sue, I would like to meet with you and your fiancé. At that time, I can review the program with you and answer any questions that you both might have. Personal contact is usually all that's required to get a commitment. You have to get the customer comfortable with you. And if you are having trouble getting that commitment, the meeting will do it. Make sure you are meeting with the couple. It is easier to sell to two people than it is to one. And you eliminate the obvious objection that you will have to check with the fiancé before she can make a commitment. On your visit, review the information in the wedding questionnaire form that you had sent her. Ask everyone if this sounds okay. Does everyone feel comfortable with the program that I am proposing? Get them to say yes. Then after you've got them saying yes, then ask them for a commitment. Ask them if it's okay if you pencil in a commitment for that date. You should always make a point of meeting with the people. This meeting will be the perfect opportunity to pick up the deposit check and the wedding reception questionnaire form. This form will provide you with a checkoff list of material to talk about during the interview. When trying to set a date, always throw out 2 days to choose from. Can we meet next Tuesday, or would you prefer to meet Thursday? Now you have her deciding between Tuesday and Thursday instead of, should I meet with this person or should I not meet with this person? Now use the same technique when you're committing to the hour to meet her on. Would you like to meet at 7 p.m. or at 8 p.m.? Always give her choices. Take away her option of saying no. You have to charge a competitive rate. Remember, if something happens, if you get sick, if there's an emergency, and you're not able to make the wedding, you're going to have to hire a DJ yourself to cover that event. And if you're not charging enough, you're going to be in trouble. Remember, if you don't get the booking, it's not because you charged too much, but that you didn't do a good job of selling yourself. You must first establish the value of the services. Price should be secondary. Confirmation calls are absolutely necessary. Call them before they call you. Call at least a month before the event, and then don't be afraid to call 1 or 2 days before the wedding. At this time, check to see if there are any details of the wedding that have changed, review the names of the people in the wedding party, and review the timing of the event. At the time you record the wedding into your date book, you should also be recording the times or the dates that you want to be making those confirmation or follow-up calls. Every wedding has a photographer. 50% of the weddings will have videographers as well. You want to work with them and keep them informed. The photographer is a key person in the wedding. He is the person that the bride will be spending most of her time with, from the initial photography at the house through the reception. These people are also a great source for promotional material. Say to the photographer, how about taking a photograph of me for the wedding album? Ask the video person if they're going to shoot you making the opening statements, and then pan to the wedding party as they're being announced into the hall. Putting this idea into his head will condition the videographer to record the scene this way. At the end of the day, ask them if you can get a copy of the photograph or the video. If you're working with them and helping them out, they'll be glad to help you out. On the day of the wedding, any of the plans may change at a moment's notice. Some halls will provide complete support and dictate the program, while others will require that you handle everything. If you're coordinating the wedding as well as the reception, there will be more details to attend to. We'd like to welcome you to Mosley's on the Charles, one of the finest wedding and banquet facilities servicing the Boston area. When you arrive, the first thing you must do is check out the area and set up your equipment. After the equipment is set up, you've got to meet with the room captain, you've got to meet with the photographer, and you've got to meet with the justice of the peace. Now, we're talking today to you about running the wedding at the hall, okay? So after you've talked with these people, you've then got to make a decision as to whether these people know what they're doing. Sometimes you'll get into situations where the room captain or the justice of the peace don't know, and they're relying on you to help run the wedding. Now, in a large facility like this, weddings tend to be more formal. And in a formal wedding, what you're going to find is on what we see here, the main floor, we would have seating set up auditorium style. And what that means is the seating would be facing the stage, and on the stage, that's where the ceremony would be held. For the processional, that would be right down, there would be a row through the middle of the seating, and the processional will go right down through that row, and it would be just like as if you were at a church, okay? And that's how you would be setting it up at a large facility such as this. We now want to go back and talk with the bride and the bridesmaids. They'll be getting ready in a changing room somewhere in the back of the hall. There's a lot of anticipation. They're nervous. So you want to just meet with them, settle them down, and you want to let them know where they will be meeting or where they will be gathering for the wedding processional, and let them know that you'll be back there with them to go over the details of the wedding processional before it starts. You need to meet with the groom and tell the groom where he will be standing. The groom will be standing at the head of the aisle on the right-hand side, and the best man will be standing to the right of the groom. You'll also, if there are ushers, you have to meet with the ushers, and you'll have to explain the seating arrangements to the ushers. Let the ushers know that the first row is reserved for seating for the ushers and the bridesmaid. The second row is reserved for seating for the parents, and the third remaining rows are reserved for the guests and family. You also have to tell the ushers that the friends and relatives of the groom would be seated on the right side, and the friends and relatives of the bride would be seated on the left side. Also, the ushers have to know who will be seating the mothers prior to the ceremony. The ushers also have to know if there's a runner and who will be extending the runner just before the wedding procession goes off. You're in charge of coordinating the wedding. You're going to have to make a point of being in the back with the bridal party prior to the procession. First, you'll meet with the ushers. The single file processionals are the most common, so let the ushers know that they'll be coming down single file. Let them know that they should have spacing between them, approximately 20 feet. And always, when you're talking with the men, let them know that they should walk very slowly. After talking with the ushers, go to the bridesmaids and give them the same instructions. Single file, plenty of spacing, walk slowly. After talking with the brides, check with the maid of honor, okay? Make sure she's all set. If there are children in front of the maid of honor, she might be collecting those children as she goes down the aisle. Then go to Dad and his daughter, our bride, and when you're talking with the father, let him know that he'll be on the right side, his daughter will be on the left side, and stress the importance of the father of having his arm, offering his arm to his daughter so that she takes his arm. Stand at the head of the aisle and wait for a couple of seconds before you come down the aisle. Make sure that there is no one in the aisle. The bridesmaid is completely down the aisle before you start. As you're coming down the aisle, walk slowly, slow enough to develop some eye contact with your friends and guests. And when you get to the end of the aisle, Dad, give your daughter a kiss, turn to the groom, shake his hand, bring your daughter and the groom together. They will walk up onto the stage to meet the justice of the peace, and at that point, you can go back and have a seat with your wife. Now, after you've talked with the bride and her father, you now want to talk to Ma, okay? Make sure that the photographer and the videographer are ready. Get the ushers that are going to be escorting the mothers down the aisle. Remember, the mother of the bride goes first. Start the mother down the aisle with one of the ushers. They're all set. Photographer's out there taking the photographs. Everything's going great. And at this point in time, while the mothers are going down the aisle, check to see which ushers are going to be pulling back, extending the runner after the mothers are down the aisle. Once you've done that, get back to your equipment and be ready to play the processional music. Once that runner is extended, you play the processional music and the wedding is on. After the wedding, you want to play the recessional music. The photographer will lead the wedding party out of the hall and into another area for their formal photographs. And at this time, the guests will file out of the main area of the hall and into another area for cocktails. While they're out having cocktails, the main floor will be reset for the wedding reception party. Now, during all of this activity, you will want to think about playing background music and think about having a long play CD to have some background music during all of this activity. The purpose of the reception line is to formally welcome family and guests. The reception line is also where most of the gifts, that's right, those envelopes stuffed with money, are delivered to the wedding couple. The reception line is a formality, and it should never be skipped, and it should be held sooner than later. The people that have to be in the reception line are the parents of the bride, the parents of the groom, the bride and groom, the best man, and the maid of honor. If you have a big wedding party of over 200 people, the more people you put into the reception line, the more you're going to slow down the process of getting people through that reception line. So try and keep the number of people in the reception line small. If the reception line is at the hall, you might have the option of having it as the guests are coming into the main reception room. After the formals, the wedding party is escorted to the entrance of the main room where they will welcome their guests, or they are ushered into this area by hotel staff. For your typical American Legion Hall, the guests will probably enjoy their drinks in the main room. This means you would have to introduce the wedding party into the hall and directly into a reception line. You would then call up each table to go through the reception line. Here we see the wedding party being announced into the room, and they go directly into the receiving line. Notice that the ushers and bridesmaids are being directed to their seats behind the head table, while the parents of the bride and groom go directly into the receiving line. For big weddings, you have to try to limit the number of people in the receiving line so as to minimize the delay. You've got 220 people sitting in front of you. You've got 18 people in the back room that are waiting to be introduced by you. This is the scariest moment of all for all of us DJs. The key here is you've got to relax, you've got to get control. And one way to do that is simply to go out into the hall where the wedding party is located. Bring the room captain out with you as well. Have the room captain introduce themselves, and then you introduce yourself to the wedding party, telling them, "Ladies and gentlemen, I am your MC and your DJ for the evening." And then go through the plan. Review the names, the pronunciation of names, get everything onto your list so that they are comfortable with you, and when you go back out into the hall and you're ready to announce them in, you're more relaxed as well.
What's going to happen is you're going to hear your names. Yes. As I announce your names, you walk to the head table. You folks are going to see the different tables. Right. Okay. Go to your table. You're going to go down there. Then you can pick up your camera, take all the pictures you want. And what I want you all smiling and happy, right? It's now showtime. You all look excellent, right? Just wait for your name. And as you hear your name, just walk into the hall. I can't see Mr. Everybody's smiling, right? You go over there. Okay.
I don't know why. If you're going to charge me for that, forget it.
You all set, everybody?
Prior to introducing your wedding party into the hall, you want to pump them up. You want to get some energy into your crowd. You do this through the sound check routine. You tell the guests you would like to check out your equipment. You ask the people in the back row if they can hear you. Then you call out friends and relatives of the bride's family. Are you here to have a good time tonight? And you hold out your mic and you wait for a response. Now you call out to the groom's family, friends and relatives of the groom family. Are you here to have a good time tonight? And once again, you stick the mic out for a response. The second group will always be louder, and now you can play with the two groups. What you want to do is get the crowd loosened up prior to the introduction.
How about this side of the hall? Did you guys come here to party? Okay, we got that all checked out. Okay, that sounds good.
In your handout, you will find an introduction worksheet. Simply take the worksheet, fill it out, and now you can essentially read from the worksheet. It's going to make your job a lot easier. You're going to need the right music for this introduction. And let me throw out just a couple of suggestions, and these songs are great. First of all, Chapel of Love by the Dixie Cups. Traditional song, it's been around, it works great. How about Those Wedding Bells Are Breaking Up That Old Gang of Mine by the Four Aces. Once again, an older song, works great. Listen to this. That is a super tune. Now how about Hey Look Me Over on the DJ CD set by Rich Acasella. This is volume number 5, selection number 14. Listen to this beat. Great driving tune. And you know when you get into those weddings, a little more upscale, you need something a little more subdued. How about Love Story by St. Elmo's Fire? Once again, listen to this. Those songs will make you look like a professional. When they hear them being played in the background, you're in charge.
At this time, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to introduce the mother and father of the bride, Helen and Bob Pittman. Let's hear it for them. And now, ladies and gentlemen, let's have a big hand for Lisa and Tony Zambella.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Bernardi's. My name's Gary Titus. I'm your disc jockey tonight. Folks, at any time you'd like to hear something, please feel free. Come on up and make a request, and when I play your song, bring somebody out to the dance floor. We're going to do lots of dancing tonight. Right now, we're going to do plenty of screaming, clapping, and applauding. We're bringing our wedding party in, along with our brand new bride and groom. Ladies and gentlemen, we'd like to welcome, first of all, our bride's dad, Mr. Herb Fortman, escorted by his 3 daughters, Tina, Tammy, and Shannon.
Gary has a super voice. Notice how he punctuates his announcements. Pay attention. This is the model you want.
Folks, next we'd like to welcome our groom's parents. Give a nice welcome right now. Lee and Dolly Canonico, along with Brandon Miles. Let's give a nice welcome right now to our flower girls and our ring bearer. Here's Ashley and Kristen Canonico, along with Ryan Urquhart. Ashley, Kristen, and Ryan are all single, by the way.
Notice this great little trick to use when introducing children.
Ladies and gentlemen, this time would you please stand as we welcome our brand new bride and groom, Mr. and Mrs. Ron Canonico.
Get everyone to stand before we introduce our brand new bride and groom.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to have you take your seats for a few moments while our bride and groom have their first dance right now. Folks, let's give Heidi and Ron a nice round of applause. Let's invite our wedding party out on the dance floor right now.
Here our DJ brings the wedding party out during the first dance. Notice what a nice feeling this creates.
Ladies and gentlemen, in the absence of clergy, I've been asked to say grace. If you'd like to join me, kindly bow your heads at this time. Heavenly Father, we thank you so much for bringing two people together in marriage. It's the greatest way we know how to show love for one another. We ask that you bless the food we're about to eat and all the festivities we'll take part in tonight. We ask this in your name. Amen. I'd like to turn the microphone over right now to our best man.
You should always be prepared to say grace. Personalizing grace sets you apart from the pack.
To the bride, Mrs. David Lewis.
If introducing divorced parents, the mother with her escort will always be introduced before the father.
Ladies and gentlemen, the mother of the groom, a big warm welcome if you would please. Eileen Kohler, escorted by her son, Bobby Kohler. Let's give them a round of applause. Put your hands together and make some noise for the father of the groom. His name is Robert Kohler, escorted by Kim Rotundo. I can't hear you, folks. Warm welcome, if you please, for Faith Murphy and Mark O'Neill. Murphy.
Did you catch that? She's yelling back at the DJ because he didn't pronounce her name right. You will get that if you don't get the names right. What's the best procedure to use for running a wedding? This is what I'd recommend. Bring the wedding party out. Bring the bride and groom directly into the first dance. Halfway through the first dance, bring out the wedding party onto the dance floor with the bride and the groom. After the first dance, I then go into the blessing, then the toast, and then approximately somewhere between the first and the third course, I then have the cake cutting, the parents' dances, followed by bringing the wedding party back out onto the dance floor, and while the wedding party and the parents are out on the floor, I then invite our guests to join them, and from there, I just go into a more upbeat, up-tempo style of music, and we're off and running. Now, what other procedures might I recommend also for running at a wedding? Well, on the introduction into the hall, you might want to go directly into the cake cutting. If there's an issue about using the cake for dessert, then you would go into, introduce them into the hall, have the cutting of the cake, then go into the first dance, followed by the blessing, the toast, and then later on you'd have the parents' dances. During the parents' dances, you should have the wedding party standing in front of the head table. This will make for a nice backdrop and will allow you to easily bring the wedding party out onto the dance floor. Following the parents' dances, bring out the wedding party to a slow dance. Now open the floor to the guests by saying, "Ladies and gentlemen, our bride and groom would like to invite you to join them on the dance floor. The dance floor is now open." Because the guests have been waiting for over an hour, they are tired of sitting, and the floor is already loaded with our wedding party, and they have no reservations about getting out there with our, once again, with our wedding party. And the party is off and running. You have to know who is doing the blessing, and you should have received that information before the day of the wedding. Check with the person designated to do the blessing to make sure they know they're doing the blessing, and also check with them to make sure you know where they will be delivering the blessing from. Will it be from their chair, or will you have them come up to the DJ booth and you can give them a mic there? If the bride and groom do not have someone designated to do the blessing, then you should be prepared to offer to do it. Rehearse the blessing. It will make for a polished, you want a polished delivery, and it will make you look just that much better. Check with the best man to make sure that he knows he's giving the toast. You'll also want to check to see if the maid or matron of honor will be giving a toast. This is happening more and more often nowadays. The toast should be delivered from a position directly behind the couple and on the left-hand side of the groom. This will allow both the bride and the groom to look up to the best man, and it makes for a great scene. Make sure everybody knows when this will be happening. When you're ready to go into the cake cutting, get the photographer out there to take his photographs. Sometimes photographs can take a minute, so you want to get the photographer out there to get that photograph and get him squared away. Make sure you are set up. The cake is in place, knife and napkins are in place on the table behind the cake. We also have a plate with 2 forks as well on the table. Never touch the cake or try to move the cake yourself. Always have the room captain move the cake. Cakes cost $1,000. If you drop it, you're in trouble. For a very nice touch, make sure the bride and groom are standing to the side and behind the cake when they are cutting it. This way, they should be facing their guests. Place the flowers of the bride and the maid of honor on the table in front of the cake. It dresses up the scene and makes it look really nice, and people notice what you're doing. They notice this attention to detail. As you bring the bride and groom up to the table for the cutting of the cake, tell them to use the forks. It will make for a much nicer scene. Let them know, prepare them ahead of time. Let them know there are 3 things that will be happening. They will be cutting the cake, they will be feeding each other, and they will end it with a kiss. And the bride will always go first. If you're using the lyrical version of the song, let the couple know that, and let them know that the lyrical version moves along quickly, so that they should be prepared to move along quickly as well during that cake cutting scene. You want to avoid smashing at all costs. By talking to them, you might avoid this. It's common for couples to request that you don't play the Farmer and the Dell version of the cake cutting song. This song works great. Call out to your audience, get them to clap along to the music. This is a scene I like very much. Notice how the band leader handled this event.
Everybody knows you can do much better than that, right, folks? Philip, don't start kissing until we start singing the chorus, okay? And don't stop kissing until we stop singing the chorus. In the meantime, I want you to breathe through your ears, okay, Philip? Start now. The room kisses a rat. Now, ladies and gentlemen, you're all here to witness the first and last time that Philip's going to have the upper hand.
Here is a great trick to use with the cake cutting.
The first dance to I Will Always Love You.
Giving away the centerpieces might sound like a small job, but once again, you have a chance to demonstrate your professionalism. Before the wedding day, you should know if you're going to be giving away the centerpieces. And the centerpieces should be given away during the meal, shortly after the parents' dances. Here are some options for giving away the centerpieces.
Light this place up a little bit. Make some noise, have some fun. We're looking for our table captains. All right, who's got the dollar? That person's going to stand up for me. Stand up. Stand up. Slide in your chair. And dance around the table. Yeah, come on. Here we go, here we go. We're gonna find our next captain. Oh, with the guests go dancing around. All right, pass that dollar bill. Pass it to the persons closest near you. pass that dollar bill, pass it, and that person is going to stand up and dance around the table. Yes. Come on. Woo, here we go. Woo. Dance around this table and move around, move around.
Okay, let's stand up. Let's stand up. Who's got the dollar bill? Stand up. Here's Kenny. Kenny, are you right-handed or left-handed? Right-handed. Pick a magic number from 1 to 5. 1. Okay, one person to the right. You win the centerpiece. Okay, the person standing up, you get the dollar bill. It's not a total loss, right?
The sequence of events for the garter and the bouquet are: the bride throws the bouquet, the groom removes the garter from the bride's leg, the groom throws the garter. We now take the man who caught the garter and the young woman who caught the bouquet, and we have the man put the garter on the young woman's leg. After that, we then have the couple pose for a photograph with our bride and groom, and we bring them out for the very next dance. The garter and the bouquet is done after the meal and earlier in the evening. It's more common for a couple to specify that the bouquet will be thrown, but that the garter scene might be skipped. I would also very strongly recommend the exclusion of children in this whole event. It's very embarrassing for a 30-year-old woman to have a 10-year-old boy placing the garter on her leg. And when you do this, in order to exclude the children, say something tasteful like, we want every man or every single woman who's old enough to sign a marriage license to come out onto the dance floor. And this way you can kind of cut out the children. Make sure that both the bride and the groom are available before you even start this. And for both the throwing of the garter and the bouquet, have fun with it. Talk with the people. Give the bride and the groom a countdown for throwing either the garter or the bouquet. When setting up for this scene, especially the removal of the garter from the bride's leg, use the ushers. It works great and it looks wonderful. Make sure you get the name of the man and the woman who caught the garter and bouquet. Call the couple by name. Publicly announce, remember John, every inch above the knee is good will bring our bride and groom 5 years of good luck. Tell the woman that she is empowered to stop the man at any time, any way she chooses.
There goes David. There goes David. There goes David.
Now is a good time to wrap it up. Bring the couple out onto the dance floor for a photograph with the bride and the groom and the next dance. Shortly into this dance, invite your guests to join in. The bride and the groom should be sent out to change approximately 45 minutes before the end of the evening. You should allow 20 minutes for the last dance and the wrap-up, and be very careful about ending on time. You're going to have the hall, the bartenders, and possibly the police detail giving you a tough time if you run over schedule. For the end of night dance, you want to get the guests up and you want to have them form a circle on the dance floor. You will announce the bride and the groom back into the hall and directly into the circle for that dance. During the dance, and approximately halfway through the dance, you'll invite the bride and the groom to start saying their goodbyes.
I would like to introduce Lisa and Tony Zambella. Let's hear it from them, ladies and gentlemen. And this is the song that they selected as their going away song. Very, very pretty thing. And this is a little something by Sheriff. At this time, we would like to have our bride and groom break off and go around the circle, thanking their friends and relatives for coming and enjoying with them in their wedding. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give the kids a big send-off. And this is a little something called There Ain't No Stopping Us Now.
This is the area you specialize in, so this should be your strength. In your music collection, you should have two categories. One category should be for party standards, and the other category should be for weddings. For the party standards category, you should find songs like the Electric Slide, Good Old Time Rock and Roll, The Twist by Chubby Checker, The Hully Gully, Alley Cat, and you'll find a complete list in your notes. For wedding standards, you should find songs like Chapel of Love by the Dixie Cups, Daddy's Little Girl by Al Martino, Turn Around by Harry Belafonte, and once again, referencing your notes, you'll find a full list of standards for your wedding category. After the parents' dances, you would bring out the wedding party to a nice slow song. While the wedding party's out there, we're going to invite our guests to join them as well. On the next song, while the floor is loaded, we're going to transition to a much faster or a different style of music, such as Celebration or Good Old Time Rock and Roll. And from this, we would then transition to another style of music, perhaps In the Mood by Glenn Miller, or maybe something by the Supremes. The key is that you want to transition quickly through different styles of music earlier in the evening. Later in the evening, it's okay to play 2 or 3 songs of the same style of music. Now, the key here is that earlier in the evening, as you're playing, you want to play all of the wedding standards, okay? And you're playing these standards more towards the older crowd. Once again, later in the evening, you're going to move more into more high-intensity music, music that's geared more towards your dance crowd. Now, I've given you playlists which have been compiled from actual weddings. The better DJs play a variety of music, and I've identified all of this in our playlists. It's the interactive DJs that are booking all the business. It doesn't require complicated routines or difficult dance numbers to stand out from your competition. It does require that you project your personality and that you use your mic and that you interact with your audience. Fear of failure sometimes stops us from trying something new. You and only you are responsible for the level of success that you enjoy. If you believe that you can't do something, then you're right, you can't. But when you say you can, you open up all those possibilities. In order for things to change, you have to change. The one underlying element common with all successful people is that they don't believe in failure, only results. No matter what you try, you will always succeed in getting a result. It might not be the right result. All you have to do is make a change and you'll get a new result. The important thing is to take action, to do something, and to keep trying until you get the result that you're looking for. Nothing makes you grow more as a human being than stretching yourself. When you stretch yourself, you realize that you can do things that you never thought you could do. The only limits are your thinking and your belief in yourself. Successful people have a passion about what they are interested in, and they have a strategy for getting things done. You as a DJ are an entertainer. You need to project an interest and an energy. Don't ever sit through your program. Don't ever put a chair behind your console or under your butt. Now, let's take a look at a few things we can do to interact with our audience. You have to break the ice. Make people feel comfortable with you. You want them to think of you as a wild and crazy guy. What could be better than jumping into a circle with a chicken head on for the chicken dance? Using the chicken head helps to break the ice. It's a gag. People like it. It's a goof. But it works, and it makes them feel comfortable about you. This song works great with children, and women love it too. Get out there with the kids, and before you know it, the women will be out there too. Hot, Hot, Hot is a great party song. The key to getting the most out of it is to use props. As people jump into the line, tell them to take their napkins and to swing them over their head. And it works well, and you get a great response, and it's real visible. The quality of your program is based on the quality of your communications with your audience. We saw DJs with strong voices, in-charge personalities, and smiling faces. One study shows that communications is 7% words, 30% tonality, and 50% body language. This means the image you project is more important than what you say. Jackie B is over 50 years old, and he has more energy when he is on stage than most 20-year-old DJs I know. If you have other people working with you, then they too must project a personality, happy faces, and some animation. This applies to those guys who take their girlfriends or wives along as well. They too are part of the program, especially if they're sitting behind you. Here are some songs which you want to use to project your personality. You saw Jackie B with Good Old Time Rock and Roll. You saw me out on the floor doing the Hokey Pokey. Other songs to get into are the Twist, Shout, YMCA, and the Birdie Dance. If you're by yourself, this scene could have just as easily been performed behind the console. See how effective the props are, the sunglasses, hard hat, and vest, they all help. Try learning a song you could lip sync. This routine got a good response.
The autumn wind and the winter winds, they have come and gone.
Now let's take a look at another Soul Man routine. In this routine, the groom is involved. This was a big hit. Check out the video, The Best of Belushi. This has some great ideas for gags, as well as giving you ideas for dance scenes. Here's another scene using the groom in the wedding party. The people loved it. How about simply bringing some hula hoops and pass them out on the dance floor while the twist is playing? Another scene that works well is playing Through the Years by Kenny Rogers. And as the song is playing, ask everyone who's been married for less than 1 day to leave the floor. Then ask everybody who's been married for less than 1 year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years to leave the floor. The idea is to isolate the couple who's been married the longest. This scene gets a big hand and people like it.
Anybody less than 35 years, stand on the side of the dance floor, please. Oh, we're getting there. Anybody less than 40 years, stand on the side of the dance floor, please. For this couple. Who do we have out here?
Much of what we've been talking about also applies to bands. If your band is interested in breaking into the wedding business, then you have to know the routine. And we've given it to you. Where DJs seem to do better is on the emceeing, and there's no reason for this. Whoever will be doing the announcing should use the same techniques that we have outlined in this video. Practice your introduction, use the introduction worksheet, Meet the wedding party before you announce them into the room. This intro was handled nicely.
Of the bride, Bill and Barbara Kane and Sue's brother Chris.
Here the band bungled the introduction. That could have been easily avoided.
First in line we have the bride's parents, Mrs. Loretta LaCamera and Brienne LaCamera, her granddaughter. Loretta and Brienne.
Not Brienne.
The groom's parents.
Bands are most noticeable when they're on break. Your first break is usually early into the program, probably when the meal is being served. This is very noticeable, and you should try to be as discreet as possible. Try to eat in a side room, out of view of the customers and of the guests. On breaks, try to avoid congregating near the bar. If there's an attached lounge, take the break in the next room. However, you do have to keep your eye on the main function room. Distribute a card to each member of the band. On the card, you'll have the name of the bride and groom and the parents' names. Make sure you single out the names of the parents who are paying for you. I remember several situations where the father of the bride approached the band and made a request, only to have the band kid him around. And you'd hear comments coming from the band saying something like, "Yeah, I think we know that," or, "Well, we'll see what we can do," or, "Sure, no problem," you know. But it was always not the right attitude. The response that should have been heard, the response that would have been in line, was, "Mr. Smith, we'd be happy to play that song for you. When would you like to hear it, Mr. Smith?" The response should always be formal and polite. The problem of no music during the breaks can easily be solved with a good selection of taped music. The music should always be danceable. By simply hooking up a couple of CDs to your sound system, you could easily mix standards into your program. This is a great way to play into the chicken dance. The bride and groom are usually overwhelmed by everything that's going on around them at the wedding. They're very appreciative of the DJ who's well organized and keeps them informed. Don't be afraid to suggest to the bride and groom that they go around and visit the tables. To pick up the party, bring out the bride and groom to dance with the guests. Here we bring out the groom to dance with the women. Now we bring out the bride to dance with the men. The songs can be fast or slow, and this will depend on your couple. If it's a small party, don't be afraid to suggest to the bride and groom that they go around and visit the tables. You should not invite customers to a wedding to see you work. It's not appropriate. It's also not appropriate for you to have big signs at the wedding. It's okay to have your business cards, but get away from big signs or placards with your name and organization on it. It doesn't look right. Make sure you thank your guests and the wedding couple personally at the end of the evening. And many DJs will present the bride and groom with a tape. And on it will be the music from the first and the last dance. And they love it. It works great, and it always gets good reviews. If you're just starting out, I know you'll find this video to be invaluable. If you've been in business for several years, I'm sure you're going to find a number of tips and suggestions which will add to your program. I wish you the best, and I welcome your comments.